Welcome, dear viewers, to Family Secrets Unveiled. Tonight, we delve into a tale so unsettling, so shrouded in mystery, it might just make you question everything you thought you knew about love, trust, and the very fabric of identity. Imagine falling head over heels for someone, building a life, a home, a future, only to discover that the person you share your bed with, the person you vowed to spend eternity with, simply doesn't exist. Not in any official capacity, not in any records, as if they walked out of thin air and into your world, leaving no trace before and, perhaps, hinting at a terrifying void beneath the surface. This isn't a work of fiction, not entirely. It's a chilling reminder that sometimes the most profound enigmas aren't found in ancient texts or distant lands, but in the quiet corners of our own lives, lurking just beneath the veneer of normalcy. Our story begins with Sarah Davies, a woman in her late 30s, vibrant and full of life, a successful architect with a keen eye for detail and a heart open to grand possibilities. She lived in a charming, renovated brownstone in a leafy Brooklyn neighborhood, her life meticulously organized, her future seemingly mapped out. Yet, there was an emptiness, a longing for a connection that went beyond casual dates and fleeting encounters. That's when David Sterling entered her life, or rather, materialized into it. He was effortlessly charming, with eyes that held a depth she couldn't quite decipher, a slight European accent that hinted at a cosmopolitan past, and a laugh that resonated with genuine warmth. He was a landscape designer, he told her, with a passion for creating urban oases, a wanderer who had finally found his anchor in New York. Their courtship was a whirlwind of romantic dinners, spontaneous weekend trips to quaint New England towns, and evenings spent sharing dreams and vulnerabilities on her rooftop terrace, bathed in the soft glow of the city lights. Sarah felt an inexplicable pull towards him, a sense of belonging she hadn't experienced before. David was everything she had ever dreamed of and more. He was attentive, intelligent, and possessed an aura of quiet strength that made her feel safe and cherished. Their connection deepened with astonishing speed. Within 6 months, they were inseparable, and within a year, David proposed under a canopy of stars in Central Park, a moment Sarah would forever cherish. The engagement ring, a vintage sapphire, was exquisite, a testament to his refined taste. Their wedding was a small, intimate affair at a historic manor upstate, surrounded by Sarah's closest friends and family. David, surprisingly, had no family to speak of, a detail he explained away with a sad smile, mentioning a series of unfortunate circumstances and a preference for a close-knit circle. Sarah, caught up in the euphoria of new love, accepted his explanation without question. After all, everyone has their past, and she wasn't one to pry into old wounds. She simply admired his resilience, his ability to move forward despite past heartbreaks. Their first year of marriage was a blissful haze of shared laughter, quiet mornings with coffee, and the comforting rhythm of 2 lives intertwining. David was a wonderful husband, always supportive, always understanding. He had a knack for anticipating her needs, for making her feel like the most important person in the world. He was a true partner, someone she could lean on, someone she could trust implicitly. The first subtle crack in their idyllic facade appeared innocently enough. Sarah, wanting to add David to her health insurance, requested his social security number and date of birth. David hesitated, a flicker of something she couldn't quite place in his eyes, before smoothly providing the information. "You know, all my records are a bit scattered," he chuckled, "moving around so much in my younger days. Always a bit of a paperwork nightmare." Sarah dismissed it as a minor inconvenience. But when the insurance company flagged an issue, stating they couldn't verify his identity, a tiny seed of doubt began to sprout. Then came the house refinance. The bank needed official identification, tax records, a credit history. David offered vague excuses, suggesting delays, blaming bureaucratic red tape. Sarah, ever the pragmatic one, started making calls. The Social Security Administration had no record of a David Sterling with the provided number. The IRS had no tax filings under that name. There was no driver's license in New York or any neighboring states matching his description. No birth certificate from any U.S. state. It was as if he had no digital footprint, no paper trail, no official existence before he met her. The man she had married, the man she loved with all her heart, was, according to every official channel, a ghost. The revelation hit Sarah like a physical blow. The initial confusion quickly morphed into a cold, sickening dread. Her carefully constructed world, built on foundations of trust and love, began to crumble around her. She tried to confront David, gently at first, then with growing desperation. He would either deflect, become vaguely defensive, or simply change the subject, his charming smile never quite reaching his eyes. "Darling, it's nothing to worry about," he'd soothe, pulling her close, his embrace still capable of making her forget her worries, if only for a moment. Just a bit of an identity crisis, you know, being an international man of mystery. But the humor now felt forced, a thin veil over something far more sinister. The more she dug, the deeper the hole became. Her friends, seeing her distress, suggested she might be overthinking it, that perhaps he was an immigrant with a complicated past, or someone who had genuinely lost his records. But Sarah's architect's mind, trained to spot discrepancies and inconsistencies, told her otherwise. This wasn't just a complicated past, this was an absence. A deliberate, meticulous erasure. The man she had married had no history, no official birth, no verifiable life before her. And the terrifying question began to echo in the quiet spaces of her mind. If he didn't exist on paper, who was he really? And what other secrets was he hiding? The comfortable warmth of their home now felt like a gilded cage, and the man beside her, once her solace, now felt like a stranger cloaked in an unsettling enigma. The stage was set, and Sarah, unknowingly, had just stepped into a play far darker than she could ever imagine. The suffocating realization that her husband was a phantom became Sarah's constant companion, a chilling whisper in the quiet of their Brooklyn brownstone. David, sensing her unease, grew more distant, his once effervescent charm now tinged with an almost imperceptible edge. He'd spend more hours in his home office, the door often locked, his phone always close at hand, face down. Sarah, driven by a growing desperation that gnawed at her sanity, found herself resorting to desperate measures. She started observing him, not as a loving wife, but as a detective scrutinizing a suspect. Every phone call became a coded message, every late return a potential clandestine meeting. Her architect's precision, once applied to blueprints and design, was now focused on piecing together the fragments of David's non-existence. She hired a private investigator, a grizzled man named Frank Maxwell, whose weary eyes had seen too many broken lives and hidden truths. Frank listened patiently to Sarah's unbelievable tale, his skepticism slowly giving way to a professional curiosity. "No records at all, huh? Not even a birth certificate in a different name," he grumbled, taking notes in a worn leather-bound notebook. "That's unusual, even for the most careful operators." Frank's initial digging only confirmed Sarah's worst fears. David Sterling truly was a ghost. No school records, no prior addresses, no family, no friends who could vouch for a shared past before his arrival in New York. Even the companies he claimed to have worked for had no record of his employment. It was as if he'd simply materialized into existence the day he met Sarah. The deeper Frank delved, the more a disturbing pattern emerged. David was meticulous in his digital hygiene, leaving no trace, no online presence, no social media. It was almost too perfect, too clean. "This isn't just someone who lost their papers, Ms. Davies," Frank reported, his voice low over the phone. "This is someone who actively erased them, or perhaps never had them to begin with. Someone who doesn't want to be found. Or doesn't want to be known." The implication hung heavy in the air, chilling Sarah to the bone. Who was she sharing her life with? What unspeakable past was he so desperate to conceal? The questions tormented her, turning her once joyful home into a prison of paranoia. She began to notice things, a scar on David's shoulder she'd never seen before, a flash of coldness in his eyes when she pressed him too hard, a subtle change in his European accent, almost imperceptible, shifting between different inflections. One afternoon, while David was supposedly at a client meeting, Sarah, consumed by an unbearable urge, did the unthinkable. She broke into his locked office. Her heart pounded against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the silence of the house. The room was starkly minimalist, just a sleek desk, a computer, and bookshelves filled with art books and landscape design tomes. Nothing seemed out of place. But her architect's eye for detail, her innate ability to spot the subtle anomaly, led her to a loose floorboard beneath a heavy armchair. Her fingers trembled as she pried it open. Inside, nestled in the darkness, was a small, locked metal box. She found the key, hidden ingeniously behind a loose brick in the fireplace, a detail David had once casually pointed out as a quirk of the old house. As the lid clicked open, Sarah braced herself, a wave of nausea washing over her. What she found inside wasn't a trove of hidden money or illicit documents, but something far more disturbing, far more personal. There were several meticulously crafted fake passports, each with David's face, but under different names: Marcus Thorne, Julian Vance, Stefan Volkov, with birthplaces ranging from London to Geneva to a small town in rural Russia. Each passport was impeccably designed, complete with authentic-looking stamps from various countries. Alongside them were several equally convincing driver's licenses, credit cards, and even birth certificates, all under these different identities. Then she saw a faded photograph. It was old, crinkled at the edges, showing a younger David, perhaps in his early 20s, standing beside a much older, stern-faced man in military fatigues, both in what appeared to be a dense, snowy forest. But it was the other items that truly sent shivers down her spine: a small, intricately carved wooden box containing a single, tarnished silver locket. She opened it, and inside were two miniature, blurry photographs. One was of a young woman with a strikingly familiar face. It took her a moment to realize it bore an uncanny resemblance to her. The other was a man she didn't recognize, but whose eyes held a chilling intensity. But perhaps the most damning item was a worn, leather-bound journal, its pages filled with elegant, precise handwriting. It wasn't just a diary, it was a meticulous record. Dates, locations, names, and chillingly detailed observations about people, their habits, their vulnerabilities, their routines. And on one page, a name jumped out at her, repeated multiple times: Sarah Davies, target acquired. The world tilted on its axis. Sarah stumbled backward, the contents of the box scattering across the floor like poisoned confetti. Target acquired. She wasn't David's wife. She was his target. The love, the laughter, the shared dreams, all of it a meticulously constructed facade. He wasn't just a man with no records. He was a professional ghost, a chameleon, perhaps even a predator. The implication of the photograph: the woman who looked like her, gnawed at her. Was she a previous target? A victim? The journal confirmed her deepest fears. David was not who he said he was, and his intentions were far from loving. He had been studying her, planning, executing this elaborate deception with chilling precision. The man she loved, the man she had married, was a master manipulator, a ghost with a terrifying agenda. And she, Sarah Davies, the astute architect, had been nothing more than another blueprint in his elaborate, sinister design. The air in the office grew heavy, thick with the weight of shattered trust and impending danger. She was trapped, married to a man who literally didn't exist, a man who had targeted her and whose true nature remained shrouded in a terrifying darkness. She had opened Pandora's box, and the horrors within were now free. The discovery of David's hidden box plunged Sarah into a vortex of fear and disbelief. The man she loved, the life they built, was a monstrous lie. The image of the woman in the locket, so eerily similar to her, haunted her waking hours and invaded her nightmares. She was no longer just a wife. She was a woman caught in a deadly trap, the walls closing in around her. Her initial instinct was to run, to flee from this nightmare. But where would she go? David was a ghost, yet he was everywhere, embedded in her life, her home, her very existence. And the chilling thought that she was a target acquired sent shivers down her spine. What kind of target? And for what purpose? This wasn't just a matter of a deceptive husband. This felt like something far more organized, far more sinister. Sarah knew she couldn't confront David directly, not yet. He was too cunning, too dangerous. She needed to understand the full scope of his deception, to uncover his true identity and agenda before making her move. She spent the next few days in a fog of fear, pretending normalcy, observing David with a new, terrifying clarity. Every touch felt calculated, every smile a mask. She meticulously documented everything she found in the journal, cross-referencing names and dates with Frank Maxwell. The private investigator, now fully convinced of the gravity of the situation, worked tirelessly, his network expanding beyond local authorities. He discovered that several of the identities in David's fake passports were linked to unsolved cold cases across Europe, disappearances, high-profile thefts, even a suspicious fire that claimed the lives of a wealthy couple in Tuscany. The pattern was chillingly consistent. David, or one of his aliases, would appear, integrate himself into a community, target a wealthy individual or family, and then disappear, leaving behind a trail of devastation and unanswered questions. The woman in the locket, Frank discovered, was a socialite from Geneva who had vanished without a trace 5 years prior, leaving behind a considerable fortune. Her resemblance to Sarah was not a coincidence, it was a disturbing blueprint. The confrontation, when it came, was not on Sarah's terms, but David's. He sensed her growing fear, the subtle shifts in her demeanor. One evening, as they sat in their living room, a strained silence hanging between them, David turned to her, his eyes unreadable. "Sarah," he began, his voice soft, almost regretful, "we need to talk." Sarah's heart leaped into her throat. This was it. The moment of truth. She clutched the armrest, bracing herself. "About what, David?" she managed, her voice barely a whisper. He leaned forward, his charm now replaced by an unnerving intensity. "You know, don't you? You found something." There was no anger, no accusation, just a flat statement of fact. Sarah felt a surge of cold terror, quickly followed by a spark of defiance. "I found everything, David. The passports, the journal, the lies. Who are you? What do you want from me?" David sat back, a slow, predatory smile spreading across his face. "My name," he said, the European accent now almost entirely gone, replaced by a crisp, American inflection she had never heard before, "is not important. What is important is that you understand your position. You are quite valuable to us, Sarah. Your architectural firm, your access to certain high-value clients, your meticulous nature, it's all part of a much larger plan." He then laid out the truth, a chilling tapestry of calculated deception that left Sarah gasping for air. He was a deep-cover operative for a shadowy organization that specialized in corporate espionage and infiltration, using elaborate personas to gain access to lucrative networks. Sarah's firm, with its prestigious projects and wealthy clientele, was the perfect conduit for their next major operation, a multi-billion-dollar real estate deal involving sensitive data and insider information. Her marriage to him was merely the final stage of his infiltration, a means to an end. The women in the locket, the targets acquired in his journal, were all previous contacts, stepping stones in his career, discarded once their utility ran out. "You see, Sarah," he explained, almost conversationally, "love is a powerful motivator. People become careless when they're in love. They trust. They share. It's truly fascinating how easily people can be manipulated when their hearts are involved." The revelation was a hammer blow to Sarah's soul. Her entire life, her love, her very identity, had been weaponized against her. David, the man she married, was a professional spy, a master of deception, and she was merely a pawn in his dangerous game. Her mind reeled with the implications. She was not just a victim of a romantic betrayal, she was complicit, unknowingly, in a vast criminal enterprise. "Why me?" she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Why go to all this trouble?" David chuckled, a cold, humorless sound. "Because you, my dear Sarah, are exceptional. Your mind, your talent, your network. You are perfect. And now you will help us. Or there will be consequences. Not just for you, but for everyone you hold dear. He stood up, towering over her, his eyes no longer charming, but hard and menacing. You have two choices, Sarah. Cooperate, and we all walk away. Or resist, and everything you cherish will burn. The truth, once a desperate quest, was now a terrifying burden. Sarah was at a crossroads, trapped between loyalty to a phantom and the devastating reality of his true, horrifying nature. The ultimate betrayal had been revealed, and she realized, with a chilling clarity, that her life, as she knew it, was irrevocably over. The ultimatum delivered by David hung heavy in the air, a poisonous shroud over Sarah's shattered world. Cooperate or lose everything. The choice felt impossible, a descent into an abyss no matter which path she chose. But Sarah, the meticulous architect, the woman who had built her life on precision and integrity, refused to be a pawn. The cold terror slowly gave way to a simmering rage, a fierce determination to fight back. She thought of her parents, her loyal friends, the life she had painstakingly crafted. None of it deserved to be destroyed by this phantom. She would not let David, or his shadowy organization, win. She had a plan, a desperate, dangerous gamble, but it was her only chance. She pretended to comply, her acting skills, honed over months of living a lie, surprisingly convincing. She nodded, she cried, she feigned resignation, making David believe she was broken, easily controlled. But beneath the surface, her mind raced, connecting the dots Frank Maxwell had provided, formulating a countermove. David, confident in his manipulation, began to integrate Sarah further into his plan. He brought her to clandestine meetings in nondescript office buildings, introduced her to cold-eyed individuals who spoke in hushed tones about assets and leverage. He showed her encrypted files, blueprints for the upcoming real estate deal that revealed layers of corruption and illegal data acquisition. Sarah absorbed every detail, memorizing faces, codes, locations, all while maintaining her facade of a terrified, compliant wife. She secretly fed every scrap of information to Frank, communicating through a burner phone she had purchased and hidden in her car. Frank, working with a specialized FBI task force now alerted to David's true nature and the organization he represented, began to move in the shadows, building a case against David and his network. The stakes were impossibly high. One wrong move, one slip of the tongue, and Sarah's life, and countless others, would be forfeit. The climax arrived on the night of the big close, the final meeting where the multi-billion-dollar deal was to be cemented and the stolen data exchanged. It was held in a penthouse suite overlooking Manhattan, a scene of opulent betrayal. Sarah was there, ostensibly as a key player in her firm, her presence lending legitimacy to the fraudulent transaction. David, looking sharp and confident, introduced her to the key figures, a corrupt real estate mogul, a shady tech magnate, and a cold, formidable woman who seemed to be David's superior, her eyes missing any trace of human warmth. As the encrypted hard drives were exchanged and the final signatures were about to be put on the contracts, Sarah made her move. She had orchestrated a subtle system override in the building's security, a silent signal to Frank and the waiting FBI team. Just as the tech magnate inserted the compromised drive into his laptop, triggering the data transfer, the lights flickered and then went out, plunging the penthouse into momentary darkness. Chaos erupted. When the emergency lights flickered on, the room was swarming with FBI agents, Frank Maxwell leading the charge. David, caught off guard, snarled, his mask finally dropping to reveal the true predator beneath. He grabbed Sarah, pulling her into a chokehold, using her as a shield. "Don't move. Any closer and she dies," he barked, his voice raw with fury. Sarah, remembering Frank's instructions, remained calm, her eyes meeting David's with a cold, unwavering defiance. He was a killer, a manipulator, but she was no longer his victim. Just as he tightened his grip, a sharp crack echoed through the room. Frank, an expert marksman, had fired a tranquilizer dart, hitting David in the neck. His eyes rolled back, his body went limp, and he crumpled to the floor, finally silenced. The other conspirators were quickly apprehended, their faces a mixture of shock and defeat. Sarah, released from David's grip, sagged, the adrenaline finally draining from her body, leaving her trembling but alive. In the aftermath, the revelation of David Sterling's true identity, or lack thereof, became a global sensation. He was revealed to be a highly trained intelligence operative, a ghost, asset used by rogue elements of various agencies for unsanctioned operations, a man whose real name and past were so deeply buried, they might never be fully uncovered. The network he was part of was dismantled, the stolen data recovered, and countless lives, including Sarah's, were saved from its corrosive influence. Sarah became a reluctant hero, her story a testament to resilience and courage in the face of unimaginable betrayal. She testified against the conspirators, her detailed accounts crucial in their convictions. Her architectural firm, though temporarily shaken, emerged stronger, imbued with a new sense of purpose and integrity. Sarah's life would never be the same. The scars of David's deception ran deep, the wound of his betrayal a constant reminder of the fragility of trust. She sold the Brooklyn brownstone, shedding the last vestiges of a life built on lies. She moved to a quieter neighborhood, finding solace in nature and the company of her true friends and family. She continued her work, but with a renewed caution, a sharper understanding of the shadows that lurk beneath the surface of seemingly perfect lives. The experience left her with a profound sense of melancholy, a quiet understanding of the darkness that can inhabit the human heart, but also with an unshakable inner strength. She learned that, even in the face of absolute non-existence, one could still find the courage to define oneself, to rebuild, and to fight for the truth. Her story serves as a poignant reminder that while some secrets may be buried deep, the human spirit, with its innate desire for truth and justice, will always find a way to unveil them. And so, as we close this chapter on Family Secrets Unveiled, we hope Sarah's journey has resonated with you, prompting reflection on the complexities of identity, trust, and the shadows that can hide in plain sight. If you found this tale as captivating as we did, please remember to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more true stories that defy belief, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another unveiling of the profound mysteries that shape our world. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, stay vigilant and never stop questioning the narratives around you.